introducing trans women to female prisons, knowing what we know about males in general, and trans women, they're biologically male, and what's the reason for it as well? There's no data that says I'm going to do anything, but we know based on trends in males and females, females have more concern about in prison, from males being there than vice versa. So this idea that we just have to get data on whether trans women are actually a threat, when we know that males are going to be more of a threat on average, and so this idea that we just
do we know that trans women are a representative sample of males? That's an assumption that they're making. It seems very unscientific.
We don't know if they're a representative sample, but I don't think the idea should be, well, just
so you have conceded.
We have reason based on what we know about males to say
yeah.
So let's make fewer assumptions, gather data, and see what the data says.
But that data gathering requires just throwing males into female prisons and just seeing what happens, what sticks to the wall. I think there's reasons that females, even if there wasn't an increase, that maybe they're just embarrassed, they don't want to be undressed, they want to share spaces with the biological male. And there are all kinds of reasons why we could just say that, we have female prisons, we have male prisons. There's plenty of reasons why we wouldn't want any cross-pollination going on, because
I was waiting for my ADD medicine to kick in, buddy.
potential elevated threat levels, just eliminate the male dress around.
Are you going to...
There's plenty of reasons to have.
Wait, John Locks, can you tag one of the moderators in my Discord to make an announcement for the live stream? Because I don't think I can do that while I'm streaming.
Just recognizing what reality is. It puts no sorrow or misery in my heart to know that you and I carry are different in many ways, trans being one of them. And we don't have to have the same thing. We don't have to live the exact same lives or the same experiences. Trans women are different than women, and that is a fact. Because they had to trans to become that. It's different. So one side thinks that the hill to die on is trans men or women, period, no nuance, nothing else, no further discussion, is wrong. It's not helping anyone, and it's creating situations like this.
I don't like that.
So I think
Phrase, trans women or women, it's just like a thought-terminating cliche, because it just like immediately makes the conversation end there. But
it's easy. Just make them answer what they think they mean about the other person.
But on the other side of that, I don't think it's fair to say
They're
that
argue trans women is like it's violates biology. Because they don't sincerely believe that position is biology changes. Now you're saying
right? We can acknowledge that there are differences and we discuss the nuances rather than just simple platitudes like penis, vagina, sex. Maybe there's a little bit more to it than that.
If we can give a round of applause for all of our panelists, we're going to open it up for questions.
okay, you get in line with that. I'll go get I don't know if he wants me to say his name on the stream. I'll go get Tiger to watch this for me. Y'all let me know if the audio quality is fucking shit or not. I don't know. I can't test this in real time.
Please keep your questions brief, no long-winded life stories. Do we have any evidence or studies on gender confusion or gender, and I'm not talking about just the occasional, homo
Hard to hear? Okay, we'll
gender confusion
see if we can
among
fix that here in a second.
animals, other creatures. Dogs, cats, or monkeys, or whatever.
So I don't think, well, it depends on how you define gender. So there are some biologists who will define gender just as the basic differences in behaviors and preferences between between males and females of a species. So we see gender behavior, but in order to know if there's dysphoria or something going on, or if they have identities, this isn't something I think we can really ask scientifically, because you can't have them fill out forms and give you coherent responses that way. But we do see sex atypical behaviors across different species. So we'll see certain male animals who are behaving more female typical and vice versa. Like dogs.
So I just want to thank all the wonderful panelists up here for being here today. I know you guys are enjoying this, so appreciate you guys. For the gentleman on the left here, all the information that I've seen, you claim that you care about what makes people happy and well-being of human beings. Can you reconcile how years ago that we saw that there were extremely high suicide rates among transgender identified people? It was close to 40% at one time. Now, since society has made such great strides in being accepting of people who are transgender or identify as an opposite gender than what they were born as, that number, the information I've seen is that number has actually increased over time. Can you reconcile that?
Sure. When you said the transgender suicide rate was 40%, right? That is, okay, well that is incorrect. That's from a UCLA survey. And as far as I'm aware, within collection practices, people who have committed suicide don't answer surveys, but that was an attempt rates. And contained in that study are people who are treated better tend to. All right, here's what suicidality. Here's the biggest predictor of suicidality: is connectedness, belongingness. In other words that are hard for me to say. How much more accepted now? They are more accepted now. All right, and things have gotten better for people with gender dysphoria. They absolutely have. Now, all of us, I think, in the past couple of years, may have had some mental health issues. Trans people are not just their transness, all right? They have to deal with COVID. They had to experience isolation separate from being trans. But all the data suggests that affirming their identities, creating an affirming environment, creating a supportive environment, drastically lowers their incidence of suicidality, drastically increases their feelings of well-being. It is inarguably good for trans people to keep societal acceptance going up rather than calling them males and refusing to respect how they identify.
So I think one of the main issues is really, it's not really an inclusion issue, it's really an anti-straight issue going on, especially in the classroom. For example, I saw this chart that was given out to elementary school kids where it's a 0 and it's straight, and then it's 10 if you're gay. And as you go up and up the chart, it gets more rainbow. So having students be psychologically being typed with color and not gray, do you think it really has an anti-straight issue going on inside the classrooms than really an inclusion and the teachers saying, yes, there are gay people, there are trans people, you expect that, you want more, ask your parents, rather than an anti-straight movement where it's 0 to 10 and then it gets more rainbow as it goes on?
I think there is a tendency for all the sort of roads and social forces to be pushing people to be not just boring cis straight people like me. We constantly see this celebrations of people coming out as trans or coming out as gay, but we don't see similar celebrations if maybe they were to say, oh, actually no, I'm actually not trans anymore, or just kidding, I'm straight. This tends to be, actually shame tends to be more common response to those types of people. I did see a thing going around that had all the different flags for different gender identities. I don't know if I can't really verify it, but it was supposedly from a classroom thing. You could select, what flag are you? And then it had a trans flag, and it had all these different ones. They're all colorful and cool. And then the cisgender one was just like shades of gray. And if you have kids that are pointing out what are you? Who's gonna pick the cisgender? I don't know.
I think there's also a really huge segment of the population right now that is sort of restructuring social hierarchy based on these identities. So that's why you see straight white men at the bottom, black trans women are above white trans women, gay men are below them. So I think that's just the way a lot of people are thinking about the world right now, which is obviously incorrect. Maybe not as obvious as some people, but I think it's incorrect.
The status quo lacks saliency. You don't have to come out as a straight person. You don't have to come out as a cis person. It's a sentence. All right. I have to come out as gay every time I come out. Every time I meet a new person, they ask you to explain the wedding ring. All right. Status quo lacks saliency. They don't have to come out. They don't have to be celebrated because there was never any reason for them to not exist.
That's true, but I think a lot of kids see the celebration of coming out and identifying as a certain thing, and maybe they're kids that are not so celebrated in their life and they want that, So I think that's just one other reason in a long list of things that I think can be confusing kids and pushing them.
That's true. I also would like to admit that there's a lot of transphobia and homophobia out there still. Kids see that as well. And it's just as important, probably more important, for us to reassure those kids and tell their peers. Gay pride's not just for queer kids, it's also for straight kids who will be their peers and shouldn't make fun of them. So maybe it's also really important to make sure that we are countering trans and homophobia, queerphobia in general.
I think this whole topic's so geographical too, like it literally just depends where you live. So I have a lot of friends in LA that have kids in the school system, and the way you say that they see a lot of transphobia and homophobia, not really. Like in LA, it's not really like that. There's a much different culture. If there's a kid growing up in the Bible Belt, for sure, and that's 100% the point. But I don't know, I have a lot of parents in LA that reach out and say there's like 6 trans kids in my school and they're all being pushed to identify this way. So it depends where you live. I don't think you really see the hatred if you live in certain parts of the country.
I kind of have a two-part question. Are y'all familiar with Dr. John Money and the Reimer twin experiment? And to that point, him saying that gender identity is a social construct and it is an idea of nature versus nurture. I know you kind of alluded to it's kind of a combination of both, but can you give like a good critique of maybe why it being a social construct is not a good thing?
Oh, yes, so I hate the term social construct, not because it's not useful, but because everyone doesn't know what it means. And on all sides of this, all right, no one knows what social construct means. The left thinks that like social contract means it's completely arbitrary, it's not based on anything, and the right thinks kind of the same thing. So a social contract is just how genes manifest themselves in an environment, all right? It's how our brains respond to us. We're biologically social. So with the John Monet experiments, I think it's Monet, right? Monet, or is it actually Monet? Monet, okay. I'll try to make it fancier for him. So yeah, he's had this like idea that gender was a blank slate, it was all socially imposed, none of it was based on any sort of biology, which is obviously the opposite of what I'm arguing. And they had a kid, a little boy with a botched circumcision, and they raised him as a girl, and that boy developed what could be is inarguably described as gender dysphoria, because it is based on the brain. He wasn't conforming to stereotypes in terms of his behaviors, but there was something far, far deeper than that, and that was what was causing the distress. So I think that's a great example of how gender dysphoria can manifest itself based on a guy whose research isn't talked about because it was kind of really, really wrong.
I also have another two-part question. So, specifically for you, just Alina, do you immediately affirm kids' decision to go trans?
Talk to them. I want to see what they're talking about. That's what you do with any sort of like psychiatrist. That's what you do with any sort of like gender affirming care. I can talk to them, see what they want, see what's going on, see why they feel it.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say the problem with that is there's so many therapists right now that are pushed for affirm only and are, at risk of losing their job and being discredited as professionals because they don't affirm or being seen as transphobic or hateful. That goes for a lot of surgeons as well. So we keep removing not the boundaries, but the prerequisites to being trans, and it's statistically being a good decision to transition because we're having these therapists that have to affirm these kids, or they get fired, or they get, slandered.
To be clear, gender affirming doesn't mean automatically, oh, you say you're a girl, I guess that's 100% true, let's get you some puberty blockers. No, there's a little bit more to it. The opposite of gender affirming would be like what's called gender confrontation or gender repairing. So, automatically affirm, I say listen to them and use the language they want you to use, but continue to talk to them, because this is a very complex subject.
The second question would be, why not at least try to affirm their biological gender first?
Because that's why we gender affirmative care. Ask them why they feel this way. It's not an either-or situation. You can do both. The important thing is to talk to them.
Hello, thank you guys for coming. Blair, you're more lovely in person than even on your YouTube videos. Absolutely. I guess for all of the liberal parents who want parent rights, like saying that you want to affirm your child's gender at 4 years old and say that they're trans, or say you're a conservative parent who wants the right to say that I do not want to have gay trans curriculum discussions in the 3rd grade. Where do parents come together or should come together to have full rights of whatever that they want to do, or where do those rights end as a conservative parent or as a liberal parent?
I don't think the rights end at all. I think your kids are your kids, and any teacher or school system that's trying to take ownership over your kids is some communist bullshit. So the state does not own your children. I don't think your rights end at all. I think that's not fine.
I would argue just for greater school transparency, just so that the parents know what's going on. If it's something it does not sit right with them, they can see that and they can remove their kids from the school if that doesn't sit right with them.
I have a question for you three. All right. A big argument against like the gender ideology in schools is that you don't want states imposing an ideology on children. And while I think that's a very disingenuous claim, I think it brings up an interesting question. All right, a kid, let's see, second grade kid. All right, so what is that? 7 years old, shows up. Last year in first grade, they identified as a boy, and now they identify as a girl in second grade. What does the teacher do? What pronouns do they use for this child who is now identified as a girl?
I think they should ask the parents what their
Parents are supportive. Parents are supportive.
Then I would ask that, if the teacher agrees with the ideology and wants to use those pronouns, then I think they would be able to. But I don't think we should have, compelled speech on the teachers to use.
Okay, so if the teacher refuses, do we agree? They refuse to use this kid's new pronouns. That is an actor of the state, that is a state employee, imposing their ideology on that child. Can we have some reciprocation?
I think it's more of a lack of participation.
Compelled speech, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's more of a lack of participation in the ideology, not imposing a new one on the kid.
How about they intentionally, this is a little transfer, they intentionally call the kid he, as intentional. Does that constitute?
I mean, anyone who's purposely trying to go against or hurt a child is a piece of shit in any direction, but I think that it's whatever the parents want at the end of the day, and the teachers should abide by what the parents want.
I just say this really quickly. I'm hearing, and I get that we're on the other side of this, but I'm hearing a lot of the stuff in it, this is a trans child, you should use the language they want, use the language they want. No, I don't believe that because a child says, this is what I want, that creates a moral parenting duty on us to do exactly what they want. I think we have to negotiate these things, and I think there are going to be different, but I don't even know the answer to, I don't know what I would say to your question. Yes, I know you think that's very troublesome. I can see that. But I don't think we should be led by children. I'm sorry, and I don't think that that's crazy.
Thank you for being here, but doesn't this kind of come down to a discussion of self-actualization and really what we, like, the way that we view ourselves and coming to some understanding of our place in the world? And the reason I'm asking that is because does it help to use terms like happy as the ultimate goal for our existence here on the planet? Like, isn't that one of the conflicts here, is that we assume that, like in Blair's condition, is she happier because of the transition, or is she more fulfilled, and happiness comes from that fulfillment? Like, the reason I'm saying that is because it could be happy for some kids to be affirmed, and then non-affirming others would create happiness for them. It just depends on your position of what happiness is.
Yeah, it's complex.
I know, but
ask them, talk to them, see what's going to work best for each individual child. Go beyond just are you happy or not. That's why you have a psychiatrist. That's why you have an entire team of people who want to talk to psychologists, understanding where you're coming from. So we can figure out what does happy mean. What can that mean to this kid? And they can talk to you. So.
Hi, Glenn. So I just want to come here and say Shane Dawson didn't do anything wrong. So I'm not sure if this is common knowledge or not, but data says that the human brain stops developing at age 25, and I know that for a fact because I'm 27, and yeah, I'm doing that. So I was thinking legislators brought to something when they raised the drinking age from 18 to 21, and I think we should start thinking in the same way in regards to transitioning. I was thinking, like, would it be beneficial for the trans community as a whole to delay the transitioning process to at least 21 and maximum 25?
I don't know, it's so difficult because that's also another geographical question. It's like 16 an adult in some places, 18 other places, and then all of a sudden you can't, drink until you're 21. But I think 18 is generally where I feel the safest because at 18 you can get any other kind of surgery. You can go and seek any other kind of medication. So for for me, 18 feels safe, but I am aware that it's like a very nuanced question, and yeah, at 18 your brain isn't fully developed, but I mean, you have the legal rights to do so many other things. Why not surgery? I don't know.
Hello, I would like to thank you, sir, on the far left for coming and to expressing your ideas here. It's very beneficial. We want to make sure that we don't, stay in an echo chamber and that our ideas are challenged a little bit. The other thing, a question I want to ask you is, are you aware of what actual Lupron is? The drug Lupron, are you aware of what it is?
No.
Okay, Josh, could you please define like what Lupron is used for as far as rapists and stuff like that is concerned?
Well, Lupron is a drug that is used, I believe, to treat some prostate cancers. I believe it may also sometimes be used to treat severe endometriosis. I don't remember what it's FDA approved for, but it's a very strong drug that is not supposed to be used, if I remember correctly, for more than 6 months in some cases because of its long-term effects. And it has the effect of literally stopping the puberty if you give it to a child before their puberty happens. So it's a very hardcore drug. You may know more about it.
It is used to treat cancer, and there are no long-term studies on what a person's life and health profile looks like, having gone through that at 12, 13, 14, the ages where they take them, and how that affects them long-term. So that's another reason why there are so many ethical questions to be raised, because in many ways these kids are guinea pigs. We don't know what it's like to have a kid on these medications for life and go into adulthood yet.
We never will if we outlaw this kind of treatments. So do you want to know what the actual answers would be? Do you know what?
That's true, but again, so the good line for me is like, do you think a 12-year-old can decide to sterilize themselves? To me, in the conversation, I don't know why enough people don't bring that aspect of it up. To me, that's just the line. Like, can you decide to not have children for the rest of your life at age 12? I don't think any child can.
And I think that it should be done in a controlled setting with some trials. It's not just like, let's just unleash it on the whole population first and then see what happens.
Oh, actually, yes. Historically, it was used to chemically castrate pedophiles as well.
This is the chemical that you know as chemical castration. It used to be done to sex offenders. I don't know, was it Lupron? Alan Turing was chemically castrated?
Yes, it was used
This
to
is for your
castrate
kids,
pedophiles.
guys.
It's used to treat cancer, castrate pedophiles, and stop puberty. Again, using it for more than 6 months can raise a lot of problems. So yeah, like you said, it needs to be in controlled settings, not, okay, this is the roadmap for the entire population that comes in and expresses gender dysphoria, which, by the way, a lot of fucking kids grow out of. I'm so sorry to swear, but a lot of them grow out of it, and you're removing their body parts and sterilizing themselves before they have a chance to.
I just wanted to thank you all for coming. Texas is my first time being into an event like this, my dress like this, and no one. But I wanted to go back to the same-sex prisons to kind of keep control on male prisons where you don't have transgendered male or a male to female trans woman in a male prison. And I just wanted to understand, do not describe the same logic to units, because to me those are also emasculated men. Sorry, but those are also emasculated men that, would be more prone to a sexual assault inside of that isolated room with another inmate.
Well, that's difficult. I guess hypothetically a unit could fall under that in certain circumstances, but I think the bigger problem is like, there are trans people that actually do transition, believe it or not, a lot of people now don't. But the ones that do, you can't just put them in a prison, they're clearly raped and beat. That's like just a no-brainer. If you can't put, like, men have sex with each other, and they're not even gay in prison because there's nothing. Imagine if you throw a trans woman in, it's going to be an issue, regardless.
Oh, hello, how are we doing? Blair, you look fabulous. You're giving Carrie a run for her money, but nobody outshines like Justin over there on the far left. I just want to ask a question, and I just want to see a quick show of hands, and then I'm going to ask like a second question, unless you guys get more detail, but I want a quick show of hands. Should a father who has a child with cancer, who needs chemotherapy to live, be able to refuse chemotherapy on his behalf? Okay, now should a parent who has a trans child who this child identifies as trans, all the doctors agree this child is trans, all the doctors agree that puberty blockers are probably best for this child. Should that parent be able to interfere on that child's behalf and refuse treatment for their gender dysphoria?
False equivalence.
It is a false equivalence, and I don't agree with the premise because I don't think cancer is the same thing as gender dysphoria, which, like we've said, there's a lot of studies that show up to 80% of kids grow out of it. You're not giving them the chance by putting them on medication. And also, it's a lot of emotional manipulation happening, this whole line of would you rather have a dead kid or an alive trans kid, as if that's the only two options. Your kid is going to kill themselves if you don't sterilize them. That's emotional blackmail against parents. The situation is not that dire. I'm transgender, I've never had a suicidal ideation or thought in my life. And so this narrative, again, a lot of these suicide statistics also come out of activist groups that serve to gain off having these statistics be heightened. I don't think that it's just one of two options. I don't think your kid's dead or your kid's trans. I think simplifying it to that doesn't do anyone any favors.
Okay, Blair, if I have a trans child who is depressed, who is anxious, who has suicidal thoughts,
I think you fight the suicide. I don't think you have to fight the gender part.
how do I fight the suicide?
Huh?
How do I fight the suicide?
I mean, I don't know how you fight suicide. I'm not educated on, fighting back against suicidal
It's not a question you can answer for it.
Yeah, it's different, and every situation is different. And again, reducing it to dead kid or trans kid is false.
I have two very, very short, quick questions. One to Josh, right? Earlier you intentionally misgendered Leo Thomas. Would you do the same thing to Blair White because she's sitting right next to you? And the second question is to, I don't remember your name, Colin? Yes, at the very beginning of this, you said that dysphoria was a necessary component in order to identify someone as being trans. But if someone has transitioned, they've got all the surgeries, they've got all the hormones, and they no longer experience dysphoria, what do you call that person? Do you still call that person a trans person since they're no longer experiencing dysphoria, or?
Well, it's like if you have depression or something and you're taking medication, I mean, you have to maintain the medication, otherwise you'll presumably go back to being depressed or something. So it's, you're receiving, even though if your dysphoria goes away, I would say you're still trans because you're receiving a certain treatment. It's ongoing.
And I'd also like to add one thing. I've been in the trans community long enough to know that transition is not a cure for dysphoria. It is, in certain situations like mine and like other people I know, a great help for it and can reduce it greatly. But I don't know a single trans person that has zero dysphoria left after the transition, especially because there's varying rates of success with transition. So I don't think it's that black and white.
I'm glad you actually asked that question.
Here's
It's something I thought about actually before you and I met.
Thanks for turning it into a personal conversation.
No, this is actually interesting. I'll answer the first part first, and the second part second. I didn't misgender Leo Thomas. I correctly sexed him. Second part of this, I'm sorry to say that. Excuse me, it's not your turn, sir.
And thanks for signing me up for this conversation too, by the way. I love it.
This is something I've thought a lot about because I will not do compelled speech, and whether you agree with me, telling the truth is a very important moral value to me, and it has a lot to do with why I do my show and why I talk about the subjects I do. But I'm also a gay man who remembers when I was younger that we had people like you, Blair, and people who simply dressed in a certain way, or men who were more feminine. We all automatically said she for them or he for the butch lesbians who were like that because we were part of a community of people who cared about each other. And in those days, because I don't actually like to make people feel bad, I wouldn't get up in Blair's face and say, I want to make you feel like I don't respect you. I don't want to be mean or cruel, but I won't accept the dichotomy that in order for me not to be mean and cruel, that I have to do something that I genuinely believe is lying about the truth. This is a tough issue. I don't know how to answer you better than that, but that's how I feel.
And also, no one's compelling you. I'm not sitting here, we interacted before this, no one's compelling, Exactly, but the interesting thing is this gentleman clearly wanted there to be some revelation of animosity and clearly wanted you to be consistent with, and so that was right, exactly.
Jesus fucking Christ, what a fucking weasel.
That's the trans ally, right?
What a
You
fucking
use that
weasel.
trans woman up on stage to have someone possibly do that. Just saying. Right, clearly.
I like the framing here.
Have we considered that this might be motivated by drug companies just looking for more business?
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
No.
Thank you guys so much. We're gonna wrap it up. Yeah, we're gonna have a short break for the next panel, I believe. Yeah. And just a
8
round of
minutes.
applause for our panelists. Thank you.
Oh my fucking god. What a fucking loser. What a fucking loser. Jesus fucking Christ.
I correctly sexed Leah. Okay, correctly sexed Blair then. It's like, oh, excuse me, I'm not talking.
We weren't trying, and then he's trying, and then they're like,
Fuck,
oh,
I
he's
wish I
just
was on
trying to
this panel.
create.
I would like animosity. Yeah, like the motherfucker who's misgendering his options not.
I was told to tell you guys that the bar opens at 3 p.m. And something about, what was it? Cards. There will be no outside drinks after
What
3
a
p.m. So
Destiny is the
start your beers
skinhead?
now,
No.
remove your bags. All right, we're gonna
I don't think so, buddy. Fuck, I don't know how to keep the chat up all the time.
See you in 10 minutes.
Oh shit, I see, so sorry, real quick, now that we have a moment, orientation is locked, cool. Can I do it like this? Nope, I can't do it like that. All right, cool. So, what did you guys think of that panel? I can't hold it in a normal way. This feels so fucking awkward. When I tilt it, you know, vertical. Everybody say hi to Tiger.
Hi to Tiger.
All right. Fuck. I wish that motherfucker had the balls to fucking own his position. That's what I wanted. Is that So-and-so's clone? No, that's my old roommate and editor. Blair wasn't even the worst one. The two dudes in the middle were fucking god awful. Jesus fucking Christ. Fucking scumbags. Like, and they also couldn't own their position. Well, I don't want to be mean to to Blair. Yeah. Shall we go say hi to Mr. Bonelli? Mr. Bonelli. How's it going? Hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Yes, I do.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You don't look very similar to your profile picture.
Huh?
You don't look very similar to your
Do I
profile
not?
picture.
I have shorter hair
Maybe
than
that's just my problem.
That's homegirl here. They don't like me.
Ask you what?
Wait, are you one of the Twitter people? Am I one of the Twitter? Are you one of the Twitter people?
Which side of the Twitter?
Yeah, which side of it? Okay.
She's one of the base Twitter people.
I'm
a snaky
cool.
leftist.
Oh.
But that's what a snaky leftist is.
Yeah, I'm fucking
No, I have no guarantees for you, I'm afraid. You've, what's up?
How's it going, bud?
It's going great. Are you streaming?
I am streaming to
You
YouTube right
gonna
now.
fucking tell me? Or you just put me on? What if I would have said some crazy shit? Anyway, what was that joke?
Mike would have picked you up too. Yo, dude, you did fucking good up there, bud.
Joe's been tweeting now.
A little bit high. Wait, you're super high. Wait, are you?
It's lasted 12 hours.
What? Nothing. And then it was last night? Yeah.
He ate one, I ate 2 hours. But I'm still.
Fucking.
Yeah, he asked me this. He's like, how do I use this?
Dude, the end of that panel triggered me so fucking hard because I heard the conservatives saying shit to me that the fucking lefties were saying to me on Twitter yesterday, and I was just like sitting there fucking bouncing the entire time. Hey, how's it going? I do recognize your face. Sorry, I'm not good with names.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't expect you to remember me. I just remember you.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a hug. It's been so long.
I'm doing excellent right now.
It's good to hear. Yeah, he doesn't have the balls to. Isn't that the ready for 2 panels? Wait.
Yeah.
Apparently Spectre didn't show up for the coronavirus panel. I brought my mask just to wear the entire time.
Only on that panel, not on the other ones.
Why, we spec her on more than one, or?
No, I mean for the mask.
Oh, probably just on that one.
I messaged Becker and he never got back to me.
But no, she's like in Austin right now. Is there, did all the loser lefties in
Shark's not here. Shark is not here. Merrick isn't here. SAL isn't here.
So got one loser lefties.
No, you're not.
Imagine that.
Well, you blocked because he annoyed you. There was a time. It's funny because I knew this was going to happen. My editor kept telling me that I need to stop talking about trans issues because it's always just a loser thing to debate or argue about. So there was a point in time where any time I saw somebody quote tweet or mention anything related to it, I just block so that I don't engage with them on Twitter.
That is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. So I think you quote tweeted something of mine. I was like,
What do you think's going to happen when you tweet about trans issues? That nobody's going to respond?
No, well, the problem is that usually it's other people. I always forget, but it's almost always other people starting stuff first. I'll see something or something.
And you're reacting.
And then
but then you don't want to hear anybody's reaction to your reaction.
Well, no, I just need to not react to it at all. That's why I just need to block it. Somebody leaves a tweet, it's like, oh, I got him blacked out. I probably don't need to be engaged in this. I don't have the discipline when I see dumb shit to not fucking say something. So.
What was dumb about what he said?
I don't even remember. What did you?
I don't know.
You quote tweeted it was a joke. Yeah, whatever it was. It was good. What was it?
He basically just reapplied your logic to.
Oh God, it was about the rape shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about the rape shit.
Oh God, I hate women so much. Oh. You're so smart. Being gay, dude. It's just like
it is.
I admire you. I wish.
I took years of training to get this guy.
You mean years of grooming by teachers in the Florida school system?
Yeah. They call it training, but looking back.
You're significantly more sober than last time, I remember.
Yeah, because the guy on the first one.
What?
Okay. Well, do you notice? I didn't get a straight answer from anybody about what do you do if you've got a child trans child.
Oh my fucking God. I asked a question and they're like, you're just trying to make us like be mad at each other. You're just trying to like foment like discord between us. It's like, no, you misgendered someone earlier, but you're nice to her, and now you're dodging every single fucking question that I throw your way.
Steven, did you see the same thing?
I was helping them troubleshoot. I always just play the parent angle. It's always the best one to go. I have an 11-year-old son. I don't want the government getting in between me, him, his doctor, and medical decisions that be made. You should then kill yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, did you hear my question about chemotherapy?
What was it?
I asked if a parent has a religious objection to their child receiving chemotherapy and that child needs chemotherapy to live, can a religious parent interject on that child's behalf and refuse to make the definitive health? And nobody supported that on stage.
That's a hard one. There was this actually has happened before with oh God, I want to say it was in California with Morpheus or somebody. They had a child that needed a blood transfusion, right? And it's against or maybe it was I don't remember. So some religious group that
I remember this. So what's the
Getting
deal?
closer to the
You're the
stage.
parent. What's the parent angle? Should a parent have the right to let their kid die?
That's a really hard one. I don't know the answer to that.
No, it's a really easy one. You don't get to impose death on your child. You don't get to impose your ideology, your religion on your child. That's
But don't they do that for like oh shit, what are they called? Not the
For circumcision they do it.
Well, they shouldn't. Circumcision should be banned. But
I guess the reason
Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't do medicine.
Yeah, like blood transfusions.
Yeah.
I think the hard one is that chemotherapy isn't 100%. So I don't know, like, I think chemo is not a good example. I understand your point. I don't think chemo is the best example because, like, let's say it's like a 50% chance of success and a 50% chance of just like dramatic suffering.
we can solve this hypothetically by inserting 100%.
Sure. Or make it like a blood transfusion. Like,
Something.
Well, do you have a religious option?
Should a parent be able to use their religion to deny their child life-saving care?
I think the answer has to be no. They can't. Like, if you say yes to that, then the next question is like, well, what if you're opposed to like all medical intervention?
Yeah.
See your panel starts right now. Yeah, I'm ready to jump up. I'm ready to
Just climb up the stage.
Okay.
All right.
Justin, you were supposed to punch him. Where was your fire?
When was the last one? It was like
6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Yep.
So I guess Sock done left and Eric
I think so. No. I asked Shark if he wanted to come, but he said like it's too much money and he has other things to do right now. So
I actually kind of befriended a couple of those people, and one of them isn't going to be here, I think, and the other one was even from Texas, so it'll be even harder for me here. So. The last debate.
It is Jangles, yes.
The last debate in, I think it was in Richardson, I think. Those were where like Dusty was with Pause.
Yeah.
I didn't go to that one. It was, like, it was like the height of like.
Well, that was the modern day debates people, or is it different people?
Yeah, it was a different panel or a
Yeah.
different event. But I was gonna go to that, but it was like the height of COVID, and it was like right after Christmas, so I couldn't go.
Yeah. All right.
We're talking about these guys went to survival last.
No, they would absolutely fucking not. Jesus fucking Christ. Hey!
What's up, Mikey?
Who's ready for another panel?
Let's go say hi to the DGGer over there real quick.
This one is called Can the Three-Letter Agencies Be Trusted? No. There, saved you 2 hours. Let's go. Let's introduce these guys. Our moderator for this one. He is the co-founder of Myth and
How's it going? You mind if I interview you real quick? All right. A DGGer bravely streaming the Better Discourse panel to Twitch, no less. Is your heart palpitating right now?
It was earlier, but we switched over to the Among Us.
Gotcha.
Alright, this cool Persian cat is a YouTuber who has schooled tens of millions of people with his man on
Is
the
this the
street
one that has
and
Lauren Southern in it?
his infamous water jug.
All right.
More nuanced than this bro's politics is his gym routine. And I don't really know if he has a name, if I should call him Nuance Mr. Bro. Either way, put your hands together for Nuance Bro!
Oh, no, it's not. Dude, I fucking... The name's Lindsay Guy triggers the fuck out of me. I hate that motherfucker so much. Okay, I'll leave you to it.
It's okay, we all have flaws. You may know her from Battlestar Galactica, or
If you
get
it midstream, I think there's like 2 or 3 other people here that can like stream it to DGG.
She's now an advocate for reforming prison and criminal justice systems. Welcome to the stage.
Nikki. Oh shit! I left my wallet over here unguarded. Oops. That was my bad.
So I gotta tell you guys, today I was talking to my mom and told her I was coming here, and she was like, "Who's speaking?" I was like, "Oh, you know, Blair, Carrie, Destiny." She was like, "Oh, Destiny."
No, Spectre
Now,
isn't
is
here.
that a stripper or a drag queen? And I was like, he's neither, but he is one of the original pioneers of streaming and an internet icon. Welcome to the stage, Stephen Destiny.
Sorry, I can't see the chat. It like goes away after like 2 seconds, so I'm not responding very well. I don't know how to keep it up.
Wonderful research paper.
A button or some shit?
Human reactions to rape culture and queer performativity at urban dog parks in Portland, Oregon. As well as going through the back door, challenging straight male homo-hysteria and transphobia through receptive, penetrative sex toy use, based on my life story. Also known for giving Dr. Phil an aneurysm. Did you see that chat? He's the king of the anti-CRT movement. We all have a little bit of a crush on him. Put your hands together for James fucking Lindsay!
I fucking hate this piece of shit. This guy is a literal fucking subhuman piece of shit. Holy fucking goddamn. He triggers the living shit out of me.
Thank you, Mikey, for those impressive introductions. I'm definitely, I can say for certain that I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I am definitely...
Can you hold this for a second while I get more water?
Station. You did stay out quite a bit last night. What I want to talk about today is the agencies. And we've got a distinguished panel, and I appreciate the introductions. But it seems to me that the three-letter agencies of if we're talking about General Flynn and the lack of a peace there, Governor Whitmer's kidnapping plan, and January 6th. I wanted to read the stated mission of the FBI, which is a three-letter agency that we'll talk about. There's been some other three-letter agencies that we will also talk about. The CDC comes to mind, the FDA, the DOJ. But the actual mission statement of the FBI is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. But I want to know if the tactics, in fact, accommodate that point of view, because I'm not a criminal justice But I think I'm allowed to be shocked when I find out that the FBI has 12 of the 26 people in the Wolverine plot, 12 of which are FBI agents. Now, I'm not a math major, I know James is, but that appears to be almost half. What's your take on the Whitmer plot I want to get into, and do you think it was entrapment, or is this incompetence, or am I completely wrong? And Destiny, go ahead. Okay, he's passing it. Showcase number 2.
So yeah, I mean, I think I looked up the FBI, about 2/3 of the cases when it comes to these sort of terrorist plots. I believe it's about 2/3 where they're the ones actually forming the plots themselves. And you know, in many cases they'll have people who, you know, they're like depressed or suicidal, maybe they have, you know, bad job prospects, and maybe something pops up in their life, like they have a job prospect somewhere. The FBI, in order to further along this plot, will take that away from them just to kind of back them into a corner to do this
Looks
thing
like it.
that they came up with themselves.
Someone draw the green lines.
Their lives, like love interests, to encourage them to do these types of terrorist attacks. Something that they wouldn't even necessarily do in the first place had not been for the FBI.
Okay, so you're saying specifically, so you're saying, that is is it ethical to do that though? If you are trying to pitch jihadi or somebody that is specifically trying to plant and you want to plant a person in their love life, like, is that
I mean, it's a tough line to draw. You know, the FBI actually has, I think, like ethicists themselves that try to determine, you know, whether this is right for, like, it's really hard because if you have a profile of someone who intends to be a terrorist, and you know, someone fits that profile, they're going, they're taking the first steps, ISIS videos, they're posting it on their timeline, you know, they're depressed, they don't have family members or something, you know, they look like the type of person who might do the type of mass shooting or
Yeah, it is.
terrorist bomb plot. Do you go and see if you can kind of push them to do that? It's hard to say, but in many cases that I've seen the FBI do this, it seems pretty unethical.
when did you define entrapment? One of the pieces in the Whitmer case was specifically that there were $4,000
Is
that
everyone
were
ready to
needed
get
to
an
find
opening statement? Is it
explosives
just
to blow up a
the
bridge
Newsbro
that
interview?
was,
What the
would in
fuck?
theory stop the police response to the kidnapping. But the guy purchasing this had no money at all, and then agreed to pay with quote an IOU. And then is that entrapment? I mean, somebody who probably couldn't have gotten the money anyways. What are they to do?
I do think it's a complex ethical question, but you have to go back to what is their intent, and their stated goal is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. Does persuading people, encouraging people,
Yeah, I forgot it at the house.
situations where psychologically they feel that choosing to commit a crime is their best option, does that do that? And I think that's where, you know, a lot of FBI agents have kind of lost the plot. And there's a culture within the agencies that encourages rightness and getting the bad guy, you know, like we always get our man, and there's certain incentives that create this and encourage it without really referring back to why are we even doing this? If we know someone is a potential danger, does it make more sense to push them into a corner where they almost commit a crime, or should we try to get them help if they're mentally, you know, struggling? As you're saying, there's certain kind of markers of people who might be more likely to commit a crime. Do we want to put them in jail, or do we want to get them help? And I think these are conversations we're not having, and we're not really thinking also about the FBI, other agencies also, but specifically we talk about the FBI as if it's this like nebulous, faceless, nameless institution. It's an organization of people. So like any organization, it has leaders, it has a culture, it has a stated purpose, and it has the evolution of that purpose over time, influenced by various things. And if you think about any organization, the people who rise to the top, who are they? The most ambitious, the people who are willing to do whatever it takes, the people who will work twice as hard, do what they need to do to get the result. The result in the FBI is get your guy. So again, I think a lot of
Then you should be able to prove that there's a lot of people that get unjustly charged or
and a little misinformed in terms of really understanding the stated purpose from an ethical standpoint.
Is any
and I do think
law enforcement
a lot
ethical
of
then?
these cases do involve entrapment. I mean, I'm
I
not
bet.
a lawyer. I've learned a lot about the law, but
I think this lady doesn't back the blue guys.
in circumstances where
I don't know
they would
everybody.
normally choose X and then putting them in prison because they almost choose it. That doesn't sound right.
I think that when we talk about entrapment, I think that we have to remember what could potentially be on the other side. And that people look at entrapment as you give somebody an opportunity to commit a crime, and then they commit a crime, and now you entrap them. But it could just as easily be not the FBI on the other side of that transaction sometimes, you know? If I'm able to convince a guy like, hey, if I threaten you $4,000 when you blow a bridge up, maybe it's not the FBI, maybe next time it's Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or ISIS or some other organization. I think that for something to qualify legally as entrapment, you have to really push a person so that they feel like either their life's in danger or that like they're about to lose a whole bunch of like, you know, somebody's abducted a family member, you need to go and commit a crime to save them or something. I think things like this would rise to the level of entrapment. But if it's just like somebody's giving you the opportunity to
No, it's not Lauren Southern up there. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't think that qualifies as entrapment. I think that whatever consequences befall that, I think you probably run them.
Have you seen
From left to right, it's Destiny, Nuance Bro, the moderator, I don't know who the girl is, and then James Lindsay.
basically shows people have signed waivers and things to participate, although they didn't know that they were going to be participating in this particular experiment. But basically, sorry to ruin it, it's a spoiler alert, pushes people through a series of decisions where they go against their typical morality and are put in a situation where they end up choosing to kill a person. And these are just normal, everyday people.
This doesn't happen
Which
often.
to me just shows how techniques of persuasion, which intelligence communities teach, can be used. And so it does go back to the ethics of it, the purpose of it. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if you're just giving someone the opportunity and they choose it, however, I do think there are situations where they're very much pressured, especially, you know, with after 9/11, where they were trying to infiltrate mosques and things like that to potentially, you know, terrorist acts. If someone didn't become an FBI informant, they would make their life miserable.
I think it's like
So there's a lot of ways that they put pressure that
Nobody gets off on entrapment.
I mean, I think it's an interesting conversation to have about like the pressures that are put on people. But I mean, these pressures exist throughout like.
Let's see if James Lindsay says some fucking schizo shit.
Somebody just picks up a gun and goes and shoots somebody. There's probably a lifetime.
He hasn't spoken yet, so we'll see if it gets exciting then.
Pushes a person to a particular point to where they're willing to kill somebody. I mean, I guess if we wanted to reevaluate how we punish all crime in society, I'd be interested in having that conversation. But I don't think we should pretend that like the FBI presenting the opportunity for somebody to do a crime and then them committing the crime is somehow like unique to the FBI. There are opportunities all around us every day for all sorts of people to commit crimes. If you happen to jump on it and it happens to be the FBI, that's kind of like dating you into it. That's just right now how our system works, I think, for holding people accountable for those decisions.
But there's a big difference between, you know, life circumstances creating the environment by which you become the person.
So let's see if y'all can find the answer to that, because I think entrapment's only happened like
As opposed to the FBI.
twice successfully.
Yeah, but again, what is artificial, right? It's artificial because this government,
It's the government, you know, targeting you as a person, saying we're going to make you do this.
Yeah, but it could be somebody else. You don't.
Yeah, but you understand, like, if that's the nature of life, okay, that's the nature of life.
Do you think for Chris Hansen, do you think if somebody thinks they're chatting with a 13-year-old online and then they meet and it's Chris Hansen, do you think that person should be absolved of all responsibility because it wasn't a real 13-year-old? Or is it really important because they thought it was a 13-year-old?
No, but it's not, again, I'm not talking about, you know, the opportunity. We're talking about, you know, the entrapment aspect.
Yeah, but for it to be entrapment legally, you have to push somebody really far.
That's not just, yeah, I'm not disputing that at all. Like, when I was talking, when I was making, you know, my statement, I was talking about, you know, introducing love interests from the FBI and encourage them to do these types of things, taking away job opportunities. I think that's definitely a form
poster time.
But there's a pretty fundamental difference between, well, Al-Qaeda is out there, or whoever, it doesn't matter what the organization is, maybe it's the Trevor Project who's out there, and they're trying to entrap people into whatever, and so we need FBI agents to make sure, that they're gonna go pose as that, present similar opportunities, kind of look at the profiles, they're gonna say, okay, blah, blah, blah. This person might be willing to groom a child, or this person might be willing to engage in a kidnapping plot, and so let's, or to sign up with a terrorist organization or whatever. So let's poke at them to prevent that from being able to happen. But that's like minority report level, like pre-crime assessments for something. So we're talking, Al-Qaeda is not bound by the fucking United States Constitution, but the FBI in its own mission statement is. The United States Constitution is absolutely clear that we absolutely cannot do unwarranted searches and seizures of people. Maybe that includes psychological searches and seizures. That's maybe a debate worth having about what this is. When we talk about entrapment and what the legalities of it are, we also have to realize that what we're actually talking about is a meta conversation above that level. What the legalities are isn't really what we're discussing. Clearly, the FBI thinks it's behaving within the law. Of course, people like Ed Snowden have showed that many of these three-letter agencies were not operating within the confines of the law, but they will pretend at least that they're within the law. And so what we're actually discussing is, what should the law say for these people? So the definition of entrapment, as far as the law is concerned, when we see things like this entrapment plot, have to come up, because certainly many constitutionally minded Americans are alarmed at what they're seeing. They think that this, we're having this discussion on is this, there's differences in opinion, does this constitute entrapment or not? So it's totally possible that the FBI is completely outside of its purview of what the U.S. Constitution says. The U.S. Constitution exists, the FBI exists as a law enforcement agency to serve and protect American citizens, not to set them up, prevent them from possibly in the future engaging with some organization that might be a problem.
Illegal. It's already illegal.
There's a huge line of difference between investigating somebody, surveilling them, and then doing the meme where you've got the stick and you're like, go do a terrorism. The totally different domains. And the FBI
there is one on Twitch, but I don't know where. I can't remember the guy's username. He's sitting like
bound by the Constitution. And so
15 feet from me.
The constitutionality of these kinds of activities and talking about what the law should be in reflection of that. Certainly there is a point, like you raised. Yeah, these people might be about to do a terrorism, or about to do a pedophile, or about to do whatever it happens to be. And you would hope, in some sense, those people get caught before they're able to do it. But that's a really murky area when we're trying to protect individual rights. Minority Report's obviously fiction, sort of. But, and we'll talk about that with the Great Reset later, I suppose. But we really, we cannot be a constitutional republic of free people if we're going to start charging people or pursuing people for pre-crime that they haven't even committed yet. And then even to try to create the circumstances where they are going to take up a criminal action that maybe they hadn't even considered until that opportunity was kind of put in front of them, and these situations were presented to them that they wouldn't have encountered necessarily otherwise. And so this is a real deep question. And in my opinion, the FBI is completely out of order in this, which probably puts me on some kind of list, which is the FBI could be completely out of order yet again.
I mean, there's fundamentally two different parts of that. So if we want to address the constitutionality of it, law enforcement, local, state, and federal law enforcement have been involved in these types of operations.
I understand, buddy.
We're
just vibing right now. My stream is for the in-between stuff.
Were the cases, right? Has anything gone to the Supreme Court where the Supreme Court said you're not allowed to engage in this type of investigatory behavior anymore? It doesn't seem like it. So I think that the constitutional question is a side argument. I guess maybe we could disagree with the judge's interpretation of the Constitution, but at that point, are you even being constitutional at that point? I think it's a little bit strange. Aside from the constitutional argument, then you have like a general question of, can we give people an opportunity to commit a crime? And if they jump on that opportunity, should we punish them? I don't think it's like pre-cog levels. I don't think we're a minority report. I guess it's a separate conversation, but I mean, like, if you give somebody an opportunity to commit a crime, and then they jump on the opportunity to commit the crime, I just don't understand why you wouldn't think it would be appropriate to punish those people for attempting to commit crimes. Again, like the most obvious example I can think of before is like, is all the Chris Hansen stuff bad because there wasn't actually a 13 or 14-year-old on the other end? Or more reasonably, when we think of that stuff, do we think, well, actually it's okay because it could have been a 13 or 14-year-old on the other end?
I don't know if anyone's disputing that. Again, I think it's the aspect of entrapment, not the opportunity. And
you
Well, that was, it sounded like the,
I don't know, I mean, I can't
with
speak.
the FBI running those types of operations at all, like, well, I'm curious, I guess, for the panel then, should law enforcement ever be in the business of providing opportunity for citizens to commit crimes and to punish them for it?
I don't think that they should, frankly. Creating the opportunity, well, it's again, it's a completely different thing. Like, let's say that you have, and so you bring up the 13, 14-year-old, you have FBI agents trolling around on the internet, posing as 13 to 14-year-old people, and, looking to find pedophiles or whatever they're going to solicit or try to groom or whatever. That, even in itself, is a very different thing than what happened in the case with Whitmer. Like, there was literally, there were more FBI agents involved than there were people plotting.
That doesn't mean anything.
And then I was pulling up my phone specifically to Google because you said where are the cases. If I'm not mistaken, but I may not be because I keep up with too many things at once. I don't know the specifics. The cases just happened. Like, literally, it just happened. The courts ruled that what the FBI did with the Whitmer plot, which is the specific context that we're speaking in, was absolutely out of line. And so I don't know how they ruled that. That's what I was going to double check, but I only got WID. So I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I believe like 2 of them were acquitted. There was like a hung jury or something like that. But
That's not acquitted.
To his question,
It's a mistrial.
You mentioned like the FBI agents
Right?
on the internet.
Or am I wrong?
Poses like 13, 14-year-olds to lure in these
Go for it, Sam.
potential predators. Would you be okay with that, for example?
Okay, so in my opinion, there would be a complete difference between them being on the internet and saying, oh, I'm a 13-year-old girl, blah, 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 and if somebody comes, they're just posing as a 13-year-old girl, and somebody comes to them and starts, sexually soliciting them inappropriately or whatever, that's one category. But it's another thing entirely. If the FBI starts like literally direct messaging people and is like, hey, I'm a 13-year-old girl, you want some? And then the guy responds. I think these are
Or
two
not
different
saying 13, building a relationship,
Oh, yeah.
then saying you're
Exactly.
13.
So there's a difference here between them providing the opportunity. This is a vague statement. The opportunity to commit a crime is provided by them posing as a 13-year-old online. I don't think that most people have any problem with this. If people then solicit that person or try to build a relationship or whatever it is, it's another matter altogether. If they start grooming somebody that they suspect who has not been convicted of any crime, who has not even been identified as a criminal in any way, it's another thing entirely. So I would be personally create that character that pedophiles may be attracted to.
The other people saying that.
Where I'm perfectly unhappy with the idea that those people would then the FBI agents or law enforcement agents would proactively target people they suspect might be pedophiles to see what they do when the opportunity lands in their laps. I don't think it's their position to be creating. It's one thing to be like a sting. It's another thing to be creating the circumstances by which you catch somebody who hasn't necessarily done anything wrong yet in the first place. Because civil liberties are really, really fragile. And this is the kind of thing that has to be protected. Nikki just talked a few minutes ago about the whole culture of get your man, get your man, get your man. I'm not saying like there's quota systems or anything like this. I'm not making that insinuation, but you can imagine that if that's the cultural mindset, like, oh, Agent Smith, you're supposed to call him Agent Smith, I guess, caught like 87 people, let's give him a promotion, then there's an incentive structure for Agent Smith to go do things that violate people's constitutional rights so that he can catch that extra third person or whatever that gets him his promotion. Then that is completely unethical.
And there's no oversight. There's no, because I learned this through my own personal experience, and then I started speaking to more and more people who have been affected. Most people will not sit somewhere. Most of these people who've been affected, who've been wrongfully convicted or railroaded or threatened by the FBI, will not sit in a chair on a stage with a microphone and say these things because they are terrified. The FBI instills such fear in people that it's very scary to speak up. And the reason
Is the FBI in the room with us right now?
Because I think it's wrong.
Are they speaking to you in your head?
Everyone thinks it doesn't affect them until it does, and by then it's too late. And I think that we need to remember as citizens that they are public officials. They work for us. Their job is to protect us.
That's why entrapment is
If
illegal,
we
yes.
don't demand transparency and accountability and oversight, and we view them as kind of our overlords, that we need to make sure that we just don't say the wrong things and we don't step out of line. You know, we're not living in a free country, even though we might feel proud that we do. And, you know, I think that's something that needs to be discussed, addressed, encouraged. People need to take more responsibility in civic discourse and look at what these agencies are doing. Like, it's great that we have examples, not great. I mean, it's great that we're talking about what happened with Whitmer and, you know, what happened on January 6th, but those things are not new or unique, I need to tell you. You know, I think January 6th, which I hate calling it that, I don't know what else to call it, but I feel like, what's the only other thing that comes to mind where we only use the date?
9/11.
Right, so it gives it that kind of like gravity, and I don't believe it should. But, sorry. Oh, I wanted to add.
We just call it an insurrection.
Insurrection, whatever, riot, protest, whatever you want to call it. You know, is that it affected a different demographic than it normally does. And I think that is in part, I mean, aside from the polarization and the politics and obviously all of those things, I think that more people are waking up to the reality of what the FBI can and does get away with.
I think that your positions aren't without merit. I think there's a good conversation to be had about what tools or techniques should law enforcement utilize in order to catch criminals or potential criminals. I can't hold any of you three accountable for it. Maybe you. I don't know what you've tweeted recently. But I guess like the issue that I have is people it feels like political sides are very selective about who they get upset about when they overstep their boundaries. So I remember, for instance, during a lot of the BLM stuff, you have, I think they would set up big trucks sometimes in neighborhoods. You have like a truck, you put a ton of like box of shoes in it or whatever, and you get people running up, you see steal from it, and then a cop will come out and bust the person. And I feel like at that time, the overwhelming opinion, a lot of people on the left were saying, well, this is unethical, they're in poor neighborhoods, of course people are going to try to grab stuff off a truck, it's not fair. And then I felt like conservatives at the time were very much like, well, if you know, they could be breaking into your car. If they're going to steal from that truck, who's to say they won't steal from somebody else? Or same thing with like undercover cops that are trying to sell drugs to kids. Constitutional, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, they tell you, well, you shouldn't be buying drugs, you're an idiot, you know? So I think there's some merit to the idea that maybe law enforcement shouldn't be trying to do these types of techniques at all. I think I would disagree with it, but I think there's merit to the argument. But I don't like how it's selectively applied by the political aisle to only issues that they seem to care about.
I mean, just because it kind of tied in with what I was saying, what you just said, I actually do think that these kinds of things should be happening. I said I was glad that there were law enforcement looking for pedophiles, for example, on the internet. It's the question of how, right? It's the question of what are they doing to create the circumstances through which they can bust people. And that's not a left or a right position whatsoever. And that really does come back to the question that Nikki raised, which is that of accountability. It's one of my favorite linguistic little quirks of English is who polices the police? The police police, police, police. That's who polices the police. And, you know, you can just keep doing this and get infinite numbers of police in a single sentence. Right now, we have to invoke another three-letter agency, the DOJ. We presume that the Department of Justice is going to be largely impartial and is going to come down and is going to investigate, say, if there's some kind of a breach of ethical conduct or legal conduct by the FBI. But when you can't trust that that's going to occur, for example, more closely to the research and the work that I do, when you have the Department of Justice coming out in an obvious conflict of interest scandal buried within it, declaring parents domestic terrorists for standing up against mask mandates and critical race theory and the other critical social justice theories being taught in schools, and saying, well, this is, you know, obviously parents are domestic terrorists, we're going to investigate them and such and so on. You can't trust the Department of Justice. If the Department of Justice is that corrupt, and it's not about this specific point, how can you trust the Department of Justice is going to go over to their buddies in the FBI that do half the things that make the Department of Justice's job easier and say, you know, Agent Smith, you really screwed that one up right there. Unless what happens is a gigantic public pressure campaign like this huge black eye they got for themselves by trying to do this Whitmer entrapment plot. So that's, for me, I mean, this is, no, if you think that there's some level of corruption where one of these agencies has no incentives or no political will to hold accountable or have oversight over the other ones. There's no check or balance of power, and that's where people start to severely distrust these things. Of course, we're in a broader context where we were talking about the FBI, but I brought up Snowden earlier, who, for the record, I was no fan of for a number of years until fairly recently when I realized kind of the gravity of what he exposed. These agencies are actually breaking the law, and nobody's holding them accountable. So we do have this oversight problem in a rather severe way, where they're blatantly violating constitutional protections of American citizens, whether it comes down to these specific, entrapment type situations and what entrapment means or not. Well, I guess we can debate these things, but I think it comes down to that. I am glad, however, that there are people that are trying to bust kids buying drugs or whatever as undercover cops. But if they're gonna go show up at the school and be like, "Hey kids, you want some pot? Come with me." I'm not okay with that. Like, it's not your role. Like, is to go try to trick kids into doing something that they might have might or not have done anyway. I have an issue with that. That's not, for me, what I think law enforcement should be about. And you said it's not Minority Report, but that's only a matter of degree, because this slope, and I don't know how greased it is, I don't know how slick it is, but this slope ends at Minority Report. And this stuff that's like level 1 Minority Report is China right now. They are evaluating people for pre-crime in China. We see similar stuff happening even in Western nations like the UK, where people are making statements online.
But not in the US.
They're making statements online, and then they're getting investigated by 3-letter agencies in those countries because they might possibly do a terrorism, or they might possibly.
Well, yeah, if someone says, "I'm willing to bomb this building," then yeah, maybe the FBI should be looking at that.
Engagement, they call it, and then you have the police showing up. There's a British idea, brilliant idea. And at this point, we are severely infringing upon, and granted, Britain doesn't have the United States Constitution, but I'm an American, and I frankly don't care. And so, we are severely infringing upon very basic rights that are written in our Constitution.
Why?
When law enforcement starts behaving in those ways. And, it comes back to, I think we would all agree,
Do you see
and
me?
I'm sure everybody here would agree, that we need some kind of mechanism for oversight, because without such a thing, there is no trust. And if the topic of the panel is, can we trust them? The answer is, absent that, no, absolutely not. And that should be a 5-alarm emergency for every American. If we're in a position where we can't trust our basic law enforcement agencies, to say nothing of these other ones that Brian made.
So, a couple things. First, the DOJ did not say that parents were domestic terrorists. That was in response to specific complaints that some teachers were listening. I don't know if we're going to go to the weeds on that. But the DOJ didn't make a blanket statement about parents. That's the first thing. Number two, again, I can understand the merit of your argument that police shouldn't be involved in something. But I think that it's
Okay, after Destiny speaks, I'll stop the stream and start it back up.
I think that it can be difficult sometimes, because what do you do when you have a guy that is starting to check off a lot of boxes of potential terrorists, but he hasn't done anything bad yet, but you can't presume because he hasn't. I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, but I know there have been at least 2 cases over the past, over the past 7 or 8 years, where you've had people that have gone and done like a mass shooting, either like at a school or at some public area, they killed a few people, and you later find out, well, this guy was on an FBI list. Well, in that case, now everybody's saying, well, the FBI, why'd you drop the ball? Why'd you mess up? Why didn't you do anything about that guy? And the FBI's like, well, you haven't committed a crime yet. Like, well, that's not good enough. You need to be more preemptive about it. So
there's also confirmation bias in that.
What?
Just because that one, that there are many other people.
Oh, sure, there are a lot of people on this.
Infringed on everyone's rights just because that one.
Well, we keep using those words, infringed on rights, which is, I think, it should be in the opinion of the Supreme Court if rights are being infringed upon, right? It's not necessarily for us to make that determination. And if the Supreme Court has upheld these types of investigatory techniques, then I don't think we can say that it's unconstitutional without actually amending the Constitution, unless we disagree with judicial review or something. I think that I'm empathetic towards some of the investigatory agencies where you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because you have these people that will check the boxes, and maybe you catch some of them, maybe you stop some things, but then when you miss one guy who you were looking at, and everybody's pointing the finger at you, asking why you didn't do anything, and well, the guy hadn't committed a crime yet. I think that's something that should be considered when we're talking about trying to preempt some of the more disastrous things that could happen to people.
I can empathize with that, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that that is an excuse to then encourage agents or officers to go and put pressure on people to commit crimes.
Well, I guess that's kind of what we're arguing about.
Yeah, no, whether that is that or not. But I think that about it going to the Supreme Court or not, if they've violated constitutional rights, I think we don't see that because there's no oversight. So
the oversight would be the Supreme Court.
Very shady when you start talking to people and learning, you know, their stories and their cases who won't speak publicly.
Okay, if the picture's not back, I'm gonna end stream. You'll let me know.
Does that, you know, it doesn't get to that level because
I'll
there's
just restart it.
very narrow, if almost, it's impossible to bring it through the system that created it. So we need another
I mean, we have the president is supposed to nominate heads to these branches, right? So technically, like,
they are the politically.
yeah, if you have big disagreements with the branches, your heads of these organizations are coming from the president of the United States. I mean, if you really feel like something is messed up, you can get a committee in Congress to have a hearing. You could try to get one person to push a case through. Like, it seems unlikely to me that there's all this illegality happening and there just hasn't been a single person willing to test it in court yet. I think that probably most of it, I'm sure there's some stuff that happens that probably shouldn't, but it seems like
I'm
most of it's
restarting
by the
stream.
books.
One
We
second.
just don't like when the books are written right.